The elections in Iraq are over, and there's few tensions which have come to the surface. It's been years that Iraq has seen any political stability, and despite elections after elections, there's nothing which has been able to restore peace. This video will present an assessment about the recent elections that were held in Iraq and how it has affected politics in the country. Warm greetings to all our viewers. I welcome you to Foreign Policy Shots, a segment produced by the Kootaniti. Joining us today, we have Dr. Manjari Singh, Associate Fellow at the Center for Land Warfare Studies, also known as CLAWS. Dr. Singh, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's a lot of political tensions in Iraq. And to begin with this interview, how would you like to define the nature of politics and governance in Iraq?
That's a very interesting question, and I'm glad that you asked that question before we went into the election part of elections in Iraq. So, I like to say that, what Iraq is facing right now, the violence and the, chaotic structure that is there in the country. So, it is emanating because of the fact that Iraq have had a structural problem for a very long time. So why I'm saying structural problem, there are many factors responsible for this structural problem that the country has been facing. If I have to club it together, I'll say that there are three problems that the country has been facing because of three factors, underlying factors. Which are these factors? International, regional, and domestic. Right? Politics and governance, the question that you asked, falls into the domestic, factor part of it. So why I was saying international and regional is because international and regional actors have been responsible for they have always had an influence on in the Iraqi politics, right? I mean, also because of the geostrategic location of the country. If you look at it, Turkey is in the north of Iraq, right? Saudi Arabia is in the south of Iraq. East, there is Iran, and west, there is Syria. And all of these countries are regional actors, prominent regional actors, right? And then you have US. For a very long time, US has influenced the politics in the country and also the politics in the region. So because of these international and regional factors, Iran has been a very active participant in most of the major wars that the region has faced. What are these major wars? 1980 war that Iraq had with Iran, which lasted for 8 years. Then there was, the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War. And after that, there was a resurgence of ISIS. So all of these wars and conflicts that the country had to, was participating in has had the has had a very active role to play in the situation that the country is right now. What is the situation? It is grappling from economic crisis, right? There is a political crisis. There is influence of Iran. There is influence of US. All of this is why? Because country has been involved in these chaotic situations. Now coming to the domestic part of it, politics and governance. You asked if I have to say, like there has been a transition. Iraq was a constitutional monarchy. If the viewers know that, Iraq, so it has transitioned from a constitutional monarchy to a federal democratic parliamentary, government that it is forming now, republic that is forming now. And this transition from a constitutional monarchy to a federal government to a republic government has not been a smooth process. There have been many phases. There have been at least 6 phases. And again, it has been influenced by external factors. What are these external factors? There was, I mean, if I have to say, there was a Kingdom of Iraq, which was under the British mandate. Then there was Kingdom of Iraq minus the mandate. Then there was a, Republic of Iraq was formed in 1950s, and which was before the entrance of Baath Party. And then influence of Baath Party came, right? Republic of Iraq under the influence of Baath Party. So that was one, major factor. Then there was a governing council. I mean, Baath Party, we all know, one of the prominent figures in the Baath party was Saddam Hussein. So after the ouster of Saddam Hussein, there was a governing council that was looking after the politics and governance part of the country. This was for 1 year. And after that, again, elections were held. So this is why it is said that this election, post 2003, this is the fifth election that the country has had. Now, like I said, these are the 6 phases wherein the country has gone through, right? From monarchy to republic. Interestingly, from 1840s to till now, there have been 79 prime ministers in the country. So that itself tells you how unstable the situation in Iraq has been. 79 prime ministers from 1840s to till now. I mean, whoever becomes the prime minister will be the 80th prime minister in the country. So that itself tells you that the political system has not been stable. And that is why, if you recall, the protesters demand, what was the protesters demand during the 2019 this thing protests, was that we want, first they said, okay, we want basic amenities, we should get employment opportunities, corruption should be dealt with. After that, they said that we want a change in the government. And after that, they said that government is not going to help, we need a change in the political system. So they questioned the political system of the country itself. So of course, I mean, it has been, like, it has not been smooth, and it has been responsible for the current state of the country. So yeah.
Moving on to my next question, since you've mentioned
Yeah.
that the politics in Iraq has been determined and influenced by almost a lot of factors, including international, regional, and domestic, what do you think would be the possible scenarios for Iraq under this newly elected government?
Again, you see, again, the situation is chaotic because nobody knows what's going to happen. Because at first, if you recall, when the election results were out, and it was known that Sadrist movement has secured maximum seats. It secured 73 seats out of 329. So, at first, what did Muqtada al-Sadr, the leader of the Sadrist movement, what he said was that we are going to form a majority government, right? At first, he said that we are going to form a majority government. But by first week of November, it was obvious that he was going and talking to the Sunni parties, to the Shia parties, as well as to the like the Kurdish parties, because they have also fared very well in the elections. They have fared above 34 seats in the in the council. So he was already talking to these parties, and which meant that a coalition government is going to be formed, right? Now, the interesting part is that not just these parties have secured votes, there are other faction of parties who have also secured votes, which is Fatah Alliance and hardliner parties. So what these parties have done is they have formed a bloc. Now, this block is called as the coordination framework. This coordination framework has questioned the elections, because as we all know, the voter turnout was very less, right? It was just 41%, which means the legitimacy of the elections has been questioned. So to use that as a weapon, the coordination framework, they have questioned the results of the election. They have said that we don't we feel that this election was rigged, also because of the fact that these parties, the parties who have secured maximum votes, Sadrist movement and other parties, they were the ones who had opposed the election. They had said that they are going to boycott the elections in the early 2021. And all of a sudden, they contested the election. They participated in the elections. So because of this, this, and I had given an interview earlier also, and I felt that there was some issue, because all these parties who had first boycotted, all of a sudden they have secured maximum votes. So there is some angle to it probably, right? So using all these things, the coordination framework has questioned the elections. So, and what the analysts are saying, that probably the coordination framework also wants some seats in the coalition government. If that happens, then it is going to be a consensus government. And a consensus government is not going to, fare well. It is not going to address these crises, the challenges that the country is facing. I've already mentioned all the crises. For example, the economic crisis, the corruption, and all of that, because these parties, these individual parties, are all party to that problem. So it's not going to, result in any sort of, I mean, it is not going to address the challenges of the country. So that's what I feel.
So you've mentioned that whatever situation happens in Iraq, it's still quite chaotic.
Yeah.
So taking a point from that, like Iranians are deeply involved in politics and always backing their political party, and something can be said about the other players in
Hmm.
the region too.
Hmm.
So how do you see their influence in Iraqi politics, and how much they can change in the upcoming years? How much of an influence could that be?
Actually, you know what? I mean, when the Baath Party was ruling, so Baath Party was mostly during the 2000, I mean, 1990s and the 2000s. That was the time when, Sunni, these Baath Party members were mostly Sunni, Sunni leaders. So they were influencing the political arena in Iraq. So it was a Sunni minority, reigning over the Shia majority. That was the situation. That changed after the ouster of Saddam Hussein, right? So right now, what is happening is the Shia parties are in, prominence, and Sunnis are not. Sunnis are only located in just six governorates or provinces in the country. So they are a minority population, and they are a minority right now. So, the sectarian angle to the political system has always been a problem in Iraq. And unfortunately, because of the fact that, that Shia majority, parties are, coming up since the ouster of Saddam Hussein since 2003, there has been an influence because Iran is also Shia majority, right? Shia country. So, in order to have its sphere of influence, we all know that Iran is active in not just in politics, in other spheres of Iraq also. Iran is actively engaged. Why I'm saying so? Because Iran has an agenda. Iran wants to have its sphere of influence. Now, what is this sphere of influence? It is activating the non-government entities, right? Non-state actors. So a proxy war that is fighting with the countries such as Arab countries or with Israel. So to have that influence, it is trying to build a Shia crescent. And Iraq is part of that Shia crescent, whether it is Lebanon, whether it is Iraq, whether it is Yemen, so Syria also. So it is forming a Shia crescent. So Iraq is part of that, and because of which Iran has always had an influence in Iraq since 2003. Now, like I said, that not just in the government, not just because of the fact that Shia governments are in prominence in Iraq since Nouri al-Maliki, but also because of the fact that Iran has been activating Shia militias in the country, right? It has been sponsoring Shia militias in Iraq since that time. And these Shia militias were used by the Shia governments in the country to quell the protests by the Sunni minority. So that is the reason why the influence has been so, much in Iraq. So we all know that, there are the Shia, sorry, I'm so sorry, the Shia militia such as Kataib Hezbollah or Badr organization or Harkat Hezbollah, all of these are terrorist organizations. They have been declared as terrorist organization by US and other countries. And these have a standing, these have a place in Iraqi politics right now. They are there in the Iraqi military as well. So how have they been legitimized in the in the structure of Iraq is because of the fact that when Nouri al-Maliki had come to power in 2000, when he was in power in 2011-13, when the protest has emerged in the Sunni areas, in six Sunni provinces, he used these Shia militias backed by Iran to quell the protests, right? So that time it was used by the state government, so it got legitimized. Afterwards, when the ISIS resurged, when the ISIS was being prominently figured in Iraq, these forces, these Shia militias were used to fight against the ISIS. Right. So once you are using these militias to fight the ISIS, which was a nuisance during that time, so of course they will gain legitimacy. Right. Now, when did the problem occur? The problem occurred when they were institutionalized. These militias were combined together and they formed PMF. PMF is the Popular Mobilization Front, which is recognized by Iraqi political participants. And PMF was a sort of a, it is a conglomeration of 40 forces, 40 Shia forces, which are all backed by Iran, by the way. And they have also found a place in the military in Iraq. So because of which, all, I mean, the situation has become very complex. And worst is that this PMF was used to quell the peaceful protests of 2019-20, right? When they were the reasons why violence broke out in the country. So they were responsible for the killings, they were responsible for the violence that broke out in the country, and that's why it's a huge problem in Iraq right now. Now they are already 40 forces. How do how do you fight against them? And Iran, like influence of Iran we are talking about, when General Soleimani was killed, he was along with him, Muhandis, al-Muhandis, who was the leader of Kataib Hezbollah, a terrorist organization. Both of them were killed together. So that itself says that there is a, you know huge connect between the two. So it is going to be very difficult to get out of this, because the coordination framework that I was talking about, which is opposing the formation of government, the coalition government under Al Sadr, they are sort of, they are influenced by these forces. They have an influence on these forces. So of course Iranian influence is going to stay, and if Iranian influence is going to stay, then of course US influence and other external factors will also come into play. So again, like I said, nothing is going to change. It's going to be symbolic.
So my last question to you would be that since
Yeah.
there's a new government in power and you've given quite a detailed analysis about the current situation and also the history of Iraq with respect to Iran and its neighboring countries, do you have any sort of proposition for the incumbent government which will ensure maybe a better structure of state and governance and also politics in Iraq?
Well, I think all of the above mentioned. Because the problems are so structural in nature, the problems are so innate in nature, that you will have to that the new government will have to address each one of them. What are these problems? Of course, economy, employment, and providing basic amenities is one part of it. Corruption, how do you get away out of it? Because your leaders, I mean, if you're forming a consensus government, because most of them are from the will be from the opposition parties, right? So if that happens, then you'll have to, the corruption is going to be part of it. So how do you address corruption? Then how do you address the Kurdish problem? The Kurdish problem, and the Kurdish demand for autonomy has been very strengthened in Iraq, right? And they are saying that we want equal share, we want equitable share of resources, which Iraqi political figures have not been able to give to them, right? So because it's a federal government, so you'll have to act as a federal government, right? So until unless the upcoming government does that, given to the demands of, not exactly given to the demands, but address the demands of the Kurdish population, nothing is going to happen. Of course, addressing the PMF issue, because it has been using violence against your own population, right? So that is one thing that Iraqi government has to be very careful about, how they are going to address this PMF issue. So I think all of these problems, until unless these problems are being addressed, nothing is going. Like I said earlier, also it is going to be a symbolic representation, and again probably some protests. We'll see some protests erupting, and again change of government. So until unless that happens, and of course the fact that Al Sadr is a religious person, right? He's a religious figure, and he has good followership, right? He has had immense followership in the country and outside as well. So to legitimize his governance, and also the fact that he does not have a experience of governance, as in we have not seen him as a political figure. So how does he address to these issues is going to be very, he'll have to probably come up with some magical wand to address these issues. So until as that happens, nothing is going to change in Iran.
Dr. Singh, thank you so much for joining us today and encapsulating almost the history of Iraq with the present scenarios, which is prevalent even today. And I think it is interesting to know that despite so many actions and despite so many issues, Iraq is still not able to kind of find its own peace. And it will be interesting to see how kind of the politics around it will again influence maybe the future of Iraq. And so, thank you so much for joining us today. And meantime, to our viewers, I would just like to say that don't forget to follow the Kutniti for more updates on international relations and diplomacy.
Thank you, Arijita. Thank you, Kotniti, for having me. Thanks a
Thank
lot.